Elan, so nice to meet you. Thank you for your time today. And how you doing so far?
Doing well. Yeah. How about you?
Good, good, good. This fantastic documentary. Wow, just amazing. We'll talk about it in 2 seconds, but it premiered twice here in Toronto. You had it at the film festival,
Mm.
International Film Festival. You also had it at Hot Docs, which of course is, pretty awesome. What was that like for you
Mm.
to bring the film here to Toronto and show it to the audiences for, very early in its stages?
Yeah, no, I mean, we were thrilled to have a world premiere at Hot Docs, and the screening, we had two screenings there, which were great, amazing Q&As. The audiences were obviously very engaged by the film, and yeah, and we were happy that it then also played through the Toronto Jewish Film Festival, and
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Good.
Toronto has been very, very kind to this film.
Well, exactly. So just keep bringing your films here. That's pretty much the gist of it. So there you go.
My, I plan on it.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, we have a good Jewish community here, that's for sure. Very
Yeah,
strong, which I am a part of. I want to thank you very much for this. Just a fascinating story. I want to go back and talk about when did you first, when did Nathan first come on your radar? How did this all get started?
sure. Well, it's been a long journey getting here. I was working on this for about 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
Um, Starting in 2015, I was sort of looking for an idea for a documentary. I wasn't quite sure if it would be a short or a feature, but I came across an article about an exhibition that Nathan had had in New York, and I was immediately struck by the circumstances of his story as this young 18-year-old Jewish American kid who was sent by the US Army to Europe and found himself guarding the top Nazis at the Nuremberg trials and
Yeah.
learning about the details of the Holocaust sort of in real time as the rest of the world was finding out about it for the first time. And I just couldn't imagine what that would do to a person. And
Right.
I wanted to dig into who this person is. And I was also really struck by his artwork, which
Right.
has a kind of cognitive dissonance to it, where it deals with very heavy subject matter, but in a very playful, innocent, childlike manner. And that felt like something you haven't really seen in Holocaust films. And it just felt like a fresh new way to tell a story. And it just felt very cinematic to me. So I got Nathan's information. I cold called him and
Wow.
just, yeah, and just he was a little paranoid at first. He didn't
Yeah, I'm
quite
sure. I'm sure. Listen, yeah, of course. Yeah. But
um
how do you gain someone's trust like that by picking up the phone and go, "Hi, I'm Jewish. I'm da da da. I want to do this film." So there's that connection at least, But he is a survivor of the Holocaust. He's an old man. How do you gain somebody's trust to say, leave it with me. I'm going to do a good job."
I mean, it wasn't you know, he didn't agree to do the documentary on that first phone call. He agreed to let me visit him, and I would come over like once a week for a few months. I'd bring him coffee and cake, and we'd just like sit and talk, and he'd show me the latest drawings he had done, and we on some level bonded since I'd been in the Israeli army, so we had both had experience being young soldiers. And yeah, I mean we didn't start filming for several months, after I first met him. I wanted to make sure that he was completely comfortable with the
Yeah,
situation, and yeah,
of
and
course.
he as we filmed, he continued to open up.
Yeah. Yeah, as we see. And then, look, you've got, oh my God, all those drawings to go through. So tell me a little bit about that. Aside from the other research, we'll get to that in a second, but just where do you even start? Because obviously, when you make a documentary, you've got that as your base, but you don't know what's going to happen. Things just happen, and as we will talk about, and I don't know. It must have been so overwhelming. How do you even begin, Elan?
I mean, it began, with me just talking to him about his Nuremberg experiences, and I was at the same time processing the drawings he was showing me and actually giving to me, because literally every time I visited him, he would just hand me a shopping bag full of drawings that he had done since the
Wow.
last time I had visited him. He was, I mean, as somebody says in the film, prolific is an understatement. Um, yeah, and it just, as the story progressed, we made new discoveries, and yeah, the story kind of just developed uh, as we were filming.
Yeah, yeah, which is yeah, amazing. And then you had this great idea about bringing these illustrations to life, like beautiful. Tell me a little bit about that and how you found the illustrator.
Sure. So when I first experienced Nathan's artwork, I felt that it kind of was screaming for an animation treatment because it's so vibrant and kind of bounces off the page. But it took a decent amount of time until I found an animator that I felt could do his work justice and make it feel as authentic as possible to his work.
Mhm.
I ended up finding an animator who's based in Paris, actually, and she had done work for a colleague of mine's film, which also had a not. It didn't feel like Nathan's work, but it had a sort of childlike essence to it. And I thought, if I give her a bunch of references, we can probably get to a point where it'll feel like his work. And we did a bunch of tests and, figured out which drawings lent themselves the best to being animated.
Mhm.
And yeah, we strove very hard to make it feel as authentic to Nathan's style as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. He there's a part in the film, obviously you're doing other research too, because when you're that old or whatever, and you're thinking back on your memories and your drawing, you don't know 100% if that's something that really happened or if it's just in his imagination or it's his interpretation of what he experienced, obviously. But you did other research and you tried to kind of show the balance and then you brought it to him. Tell me a little bit about experiencing that and approaching him with that. And were you nervous? How that all kind of came about and how he handled that. Like, do we see that
Um,
all in the film or do we not?
yeah, yeah, that was a very tense day of filming. I discussed it with my therapist ahead of time.
Oh, God.
Uh, uh, but yeah, it was a fine line that we tried to balance between honoring his story and the truth that he wanted to tell, while also trying as best we could to be objective and sort of, I didn't want to put his memory on trial in a sense, but
Yeah.
at the same time, you know
Well, you have
we
an
have to
obligation, right?
we have
Yeah.
an obli I have an
Yeah.
obligation as a documentarian to, you know to get to the bottom of, what is and isn't true.
Right.
um and yeah, and I don't want to spoil anything for the
No,
viewer,
no.
but um it was a fascinating journey figuring that out.
Yeah. You followed him for the yeah, pretty much up to the last 4 years of his life. And I wonder when you spend so much time with somebody like that and who, you can't help but admire anybody who survives a war or whatever they're going through. It's amazing. Obviously, I've had a lot of family that were also killed in the Holocaust, and I listened to my own mother's stories and my grandmother's, and just more and more. And I wonder, what do you, even as a Jewish man, learn from somebody like that?
Um, I think, you know, what I took from Nathan is the sheer determination of making sure that your story is out in the world and part of the collective memory. And I think the most actionable takeaway that I hope people take from this is that, you know, we all have elders around us who have stories to share, and you know, it's up to us to take the time to listen and try to absorb some of their knowledge. And yeah, I think the world would be a slightly better place if we if we took that to heart and, you know,
Yeah.
really tried to learn from people's experiences and, you know, not let
Yeah.
history repeat itself.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. Yeah, it's just ironic because just before this interview, I interviewed young actress from Montreal, actually, Sophie Nélisse, who's in a film called Irina the Vow, and she plays,
Mm-hmm.
yes, a Polish. She plays a real life woman, Irina Gut, who saved, you know, Jewish people in her Nazi commandant's home. And I asked Sophie, having grown up in Quebec, how much did you learn about the Holocaust? And she said, nothing. We were never taught it. And I talk to a lot of young actors these days, especially when they're in films about the Holocaust and something. None of them are being taught about the Holocaust. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me, especially when you look at what is going on now in this world. Like, what do you, you know, like, did you grow up in Israel or?
I
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
So
So it's different.
I
Yeah.
was, you know, I was subjected to um, a lot of teaching about the Holocaust, but unfortunately, yeah, that's not the case in the rest of the world. And, you know, I hope that films like Nathan-Ism and, you know, and others can be at least part of, you know,
Education.
education and using popular culture to, you know, whatever way we can get these stories to younger audiences, you know, is
It's a
beneficial.
key. It's the
Yeah.
key. That is for sure. Well, listen, thank you for telling this story. I mean, Nathan is just what an incredible story, and I really appreciate your time today. You did a fabulous job on this documentary, and just keep making more docs is all I ask. Thank you so much.
I will bring them to Canada.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time today, Elan. Have a good day. Really nice meeting you. Thank you. Okay.
Likewise. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Bye bye. Bye bye.